You know that moment when you make a simple phone call that changes everything? When what should have been a 30-minute repair job becomes the most emotionally charged afternoon of your life. That's exactly what happened to me last Tuesday. I was standing in my kitchen, watching water drip steadily from my sink faucet, each drop echoing in the silence of my empty house. The drip, drip, drip was driving me insane, but I had no idea that fixing it would unleash something far more dangerous than a simple leak. If you're new to Tales of Lust, welcome to a space where we explore the complicated emotions and forbidden feelings that make us human. Hit that subscribe button because today's story will take you on an emotional roller coaster you won't soon forget. And please share in the comments, have you ever found yourself caught between what you want and what you know is right? So there I was, alone in my house on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, staring at this stubborn faucet that had been driving me crazy for weeks. My husband was away on another business trip, and I was tired of putting a bowl under the sink every night. I needed help, and I needed it fast. I scrolled through my contacts, past the expensive plumbers I couldn't afford, when I saw his name. Jake. My neighbor Sarah's son who'd just turned 22 and was studying engineering. Sarah had mentioned countless times how handy he was, how he'd basically renovated their entire basement himself. Why not? I thought. He's practically family, and he could probably use the extra money. When I called, his voice was warm and immediate. Mrs. Anderson. Of course I can help. I'll be over in 20 minutes. There was something so reassuring about his eagerness to help, so genuine. I found myself smiling for the first time in days. I spent those 20 minutes tidying up the kitchen, not because it was messy, but because I suddenly felt self-conscious. Which was ridiculous, right? This was just Jake, the kid who used to mow our lawn when he was in high school. But when the doorbell rang and I opened the door, I was completely unprepared for what I saw. He'd grown up. Not just physically, though he definitely had, broad shoulders filling out his navy t-shirt, confident posture, genuine smile that reached his eyes. But there was something else, a maturity in how he looked at me, a presence that hadn't been there before. The patient sink, I presume, he said with a grin, holding up his toolbox. And just like that, the nervous energy I'd been feeling melted into laughter. I led him to the kitchen, explaining the problem while he listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. As he knelt down to examine the pipes under the sink, I offered to make coffee. That would be amazing, he said, his voice slightly muffled from under the cabinet. I've been up since 5 working on a project. While the coffee brewed, I found myself stealing glances at him. The way he worked was mesmerizing. Methodical, confident, completely absorbed in solving the problem. His hands moved with such certainty, and I caught myself wondering when they'd become so capable. So strong. Found the problem, he announced, sliding out from under the sink. There was a smudge of dust on his cheek, and without thinking, I reached out with a dish towel. The moment my hand brushed his face, something shifted. It was innocent enough, but the way he looked at me in that instant, there was a flicker of something I couldn't quite name. Thank you, he said softly, his eyes holding mine just a beat too long. I busied myself with the coffee, my heart beating faster than it should have been. We sat at my kitchen table while he explained what needed to be fixed, but I found myself getting lost in his words, distracted by how animated he became when talking about something he was passionate about. This wasn't the awkward teenager I remembered. This was a man with dreams, ambitions, depth. You know, he said, pausing mid-sentence about pipe fittings, I've always admired how put together you seem. Even when I was younger, I thought you had this grace about you that was inspiring. The compliment caught me off guard. Inspiring? I laughed, but it came out shakier than I intended. I'm just muddling through like everyone else. No, he said, more serious now. You're not. There's something special about you, Mrs. Anderson. I've always thought so. That's when we heard the first rumble of thunder. I glanced out the window to see dark clouds rolling in fast, the kind of sudden spring storm that comes out of nowhere and changes everything. Looks like you're stuck here for a while, I said, trying to keep my voice light. You biked over, right? Jake nodded, but he didn't look disappointed. If anything, there was something in his expression that made my stomach flutter. I don't mind waiting it out, he said. If that's okay with you. Of course it was okay. More than okay if I was being honest with myself. The storm hit with a vengeance. Rain lashed against the windows, and when the lights flickered, I automatically moved to the candle drawer. It's funny how quickly an ordinary Tuesday afternoon can transform into something that feels significant. The candles cast dancing shadows on the walls, and suddenly my familiar kitchen felt intimate, cozy, like a secret hideaway from the storm outside. Jake had finished with the sink, but neither of us seemed eager for him to leave. We found ourselves sitting closer at the table, our conversation flowing from his studies to my work, from his dreams of starting his own construction company to my confession about feeling stuck in routines. I used to paint. I found myself telling him, surprised by my own honesty. Before marriage, before life. I had this dream of having my own studio. What stopped you? He asked, and there was no judgment in his voice, only genuine curiosity. I don't know, I said, and realized it was true. I guess I convinced myself it wasn't practical. That dreams were for other people. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard, he said quietly. Someone like you should have everything you dream of. The way he said it, the way he was looking at me in the candlelight, something inside me cracked open. All the loneliness I'd been carrying, all the feeling invisible and taken for granted, suddenly felt seen, acknowledged, valued. Jake, I whispered, not even sure what I was going to say. I know I shouldn't say this, he interrupted, his voice low and urgent. I know it's probably wrong, but I can't stop thinking about you. Not just today, but for months. Years, maybe. The way you smile when you're working in your garden, the way you listen like what someone's saying actually matters to you. You're incredible, and I don't think you even know it. My breath caught. The rational part of my mind was screaming warnings, but my heart was soaring. When was the last time someone had seen me like this? Really seen me, not just as a wife or a neighbor or a role to fill, but as a woman with dreams and desires and worth? I've noticed you too, I admitted, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. These past few months, when you've been around more, I've found myself looking forward to seeing you, which terrifies me. The storm outside seemed to pause, as if the whole world was holding its breath. Jake reached across the table, his fingers barely brushing mine, but the contact sent electricity shooting through my entire body. I know this is complicated, he said. I know you're married. I know I'm Sarah's son, and this could mess up everything, but I can't pretend I don't feel this connection between us. Can you? I couldn't. God help me, I couldn't pretend anymore. Sitting there in the candlelight, rain drumming against the windows, I felt more alive than I had in years. More seen, more valued, more myself. But then reality crashed back in like a cold wave. What was I doing? This was Jake. Sweet, wonderful Jake who deserved so much better than a confused, married woman having some kind of midlife crisis. And I was married. Unhappily, maybe, but married nonetheless. This wasn't fair to anyone, especially not to him. Jake, I said, gently pulling my hand away. This feeling. What's happening between us? It's real. I can't deny that. But it's also impossible. I saw the hurt flash across his face before he quickly masked it. I know, he said. I know you're right. I had to tell you. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't feel it. I'm glad you did, I said, and meant it. More glad than you know. But we both know where this leads, and it's nowhere good for either of us. The storm was beginning to ease, and we both knew his excuse for staying was disappearing. But neither of us moved to end the moment. Instead, we sat in the fading candlelight, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between us. Can I ask you something? Jake said finally. Do you ever wonder what it would be like if we'd met at a different time? In different circumstances? The question hit me like a physical blow because yes, of course I'd wondered. In quiet moments when I couldn't sleep, in the shower when my guard was down, in those spaces between thoughts where truth lives, I'd imagined a world where I was single, where he wasn't my neighbor's son, where we could explore this connection without hurting anyone. Every day, I whispered, the admission torn from somewhere deep inside me. But that's not our reality. No, he agreed sadly. It's not. The rain had stopped completely now, leaving only the sound of water dripping from the eaves. Jake stood up slowly, like he was carrying the weight of the world, and began packing his tools. The sink should be perfect now, he said, his voice carefully professional. No more leaks. Thank you, I said, though we both knew I was thanking him for much more than plumbing repair. At the front door, he paused with his hand on the handle. Mrs. Anderson, can I tell you one more thing? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Whoever gets to love you completely someday is going to be the luckiest person in the world. I hope you remember that you deserve that kind of love. And then he was gone, leaving me standing in my doorway, watching him bike away, my heart breaking and soaring simultaneously. I closed the door and leaned against it, trying to process what had just happened. The kitchen still smelled faintly of coffee and candle wax, evidence of an afternoon that had changed everything and nothing at once. 2 days later, I got a text from him. I meant every word I said. Thank you for being honest with me, even when it hurt. You're going to be okay. We both are. I never replied, because what do you say to that kind of grace? What do you say when someone offers you their heart and then helps you give it back, all while making you feel like you're worth the world? Some connections aren't meant to be acted upon. They're meant to remind us that we're capable of feeling deeply, of being seen, of mattering to someone in ways we'd forgotten were possible. Was I wrong for feeling what I felt? I don't think so. I think I was human. Beautifully, complicatedly, messily human. And sometimes, the most powerful moments are the ones we choose not to act on, because that choice, that conscious decision to love someone enough to let them go, that might be the purest form of love there is. What do you think? Have you ever found yourself caught between your heart and your conscience? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Tales of Lust for more stories about the complicated emotions that make us human. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure out how to love and be loved without destroying the world around us. Sometimes the sink gets fixed, but your heart stays beautifully, eternally broken.